This is the second video of how you generate some code using the tester. The first video I showed you a text program that I'd previously typed up, which is for the Bricks game that I demonstrated in one of my earlier videos, and that is all the assembly code typed up. Now the format in which you type this up is going to be in some sort of manual which will be on the website. You can obviously look at that and that will give you an idea what you need to do. But it's pretty simple stuff, you know. You can just type it all in. You can use upper, you can use lowercase. There are a few pointers you have to follow, like numbers have to have an ampersand before them. Labels have to have a hash symbol before them. Any label that you put into the code has to be enclosed in brackets, you know, the left and right arrows, and stuff like that. So there is a certain format that it has to be in for it to work. If you don't get it right and you put a typo error, the tester will soon tell you, so don't worry about that. Now on the test screen, when we ran all the games in the last videos, we were using it in the easy mode, which means you can just type run, stop, etc. into it. There is another emulator mode, which I'll now go into, which is called, you just do emulator. Now for this to work, the emulator has to be powered up, so that means your game board has to have power attached to it. If it doesn't have power attached to it, then this will not work. So you have to type emulator, and what will happen is you can see it will initialize the emulator. It's working out a ROM space and it will write certain files. It does take a little time to start this up, but once you're into the emulator mode, there's an awful lot of extra things you can do with it. So you can see it's going to go through this, and hopefully soon we will be in the emulator mode. And there's a few changes that will happen once it does that. You'll soon see. Any second now. It takes a little bit of time. It's like watching paint dry, but it's well worth it. There we go. It comes up and says ready. And as soon as it goes into the emulator mode, all the buttons will change. As you can see down the bottom here, you've got some that will stay the same, probe, etc. But you'll see instead of having the normal buttons, you have stop, wait, run, slow, and quit. These are emulator commands, and then at the top, all these buttons will change to certain things. So you have reset your code, write address. You can't do a write address when you've got the emulator running, of course. It won't let you do it. You've got read address, which is a new one. Read data. There's breakpoints, and then there's step buttons. You can step +1. You can step bytes. So that's us in the emulator mode, and you know, it's really just from this point on we can now generate code. So one thing you can do is you can press the code button, and if you do the code button, you'll get another window up here. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you're using the LCD screen on the tester, because you'll end up with too many windows. Now it's very important to shut this, don't shut this window down using the button at the top. You shut it down using the code button, so you just click it again, and you can see you get it back up if you click it again. It's very important to do that. If you do it the other way around, you can get a bit confused. So we've got the code window open now. I'll explain the code window when we load in the program. So to load in a text program, we type the same. The file name becomes bricks, which is the same as ever, right? But if we type load, it will load in the bin version of that, the binary file. But if we type in load /a, it's going to load it and assemble it at the same time, and what it will do is it will look for a file called bricks.txt, which is this file here that I've stored. Okay, so now we've got that typed in. When I press enter, it will now load it in and compile it for us. It will go through 3 passes. Effectively, the first pass it will run through the code and try and assemble what it can. The second pass is it will start putting in missing parts of the code, so some of the relative jumps, the labels and things like this, it will work them out for you. And then there is a third pass which it will use if you're using library files, which I'll explain in a further video. They're sort of bits of code that you can store as separate bin files, and you can call them up within your own program as sort of library files effectively, so you don't have to keep repeating the same code in all your programs. So this will probably go through 2 passes because I'm not using any library files in this program. You can see it's calculated, it says loaded pass, but now once it's finished, the disassembled code will appear at the top. And that code at the top will be the same as the code in here. So you can see if I go there, it starts at address 0, DI, etc. Start, DI, etc. all down there. And this is your assembler code that is now in memory on the emulator. This is not just copied from that. This is actually, it's compiled all of this and it's put it into memory, and that is the code it's read back and it's disassembled it. And it's got all the labels, as you can see. So you can see call, R&D number, start life, all that sort of stuff. It's all there. And again, we can just click the run button, we can run that, etc. It's exactly the same as before. The bytes will be set to the last byte that it uses, so it's 244. So if I just did save at this point, if I clicked write address to 0, which you can do because the emulator is not running at the moment, and then did save, it would save 244 in hex bytes and make that a bin file, and that's how I created the bin file for it. So now we've got the code into memory, it's compiled it, it's quite happy. It says, look, that it's loaded past on run 2, so there's no errors. It's gone through it all, and now we have the code in there. So if I did run, and I'll whip back to the screen, you'll see the code is now running. And that's the game as we had before. So that's it loaded in. Now I'm going to stop this video. I'm sorry about this, it stops start all the time, but anyway, it's sort of easy small blocks of videos we're doing here. So the next video we're going to continue from this, and I'm going to show you, we'll step through the code. I'll show you stepping the code, and then I'll also show you how to make a change to the text program and get the change copied into the game, so it will actually change it in the game as well. So we'll show you that you can then develop your code. With these 3 screens you can develop your code. You can write your code there, you can then pull it in, assemble it, get it up there, run it, check it out, debug it, and if you find a fault you can go back to your own code, type it up again, etc. until you get it right, and then save it. So I'll stop this video and I'll do the next one where we'll continue on.